which is conducted by basically by the province of Gujarat, especially the Eco-Jesuits. Eco-Jesuits have got lots of activities, and one of the activities is to conduct activities on eco-advocacy, in which Father Cedric and Father Isaac are supposed to look after this, and that is why you have Father Cedric as a convener of this workshop. So I welcome all of you. It's a very heterogeneous group. Probably you will have some more people coming and joining. We have students here where they want their own opted to come and participate. We have sisters here. We have social workers. Some more will be joining tomorrow. Some are scientists will be joining, and of course the Jesuits who are all working here in this field. So I also take this opportunity to thank all of you for taking the trouble to reach on time, even though we were a bit delayed in starting. So with this note, I warmly welcome all of you. A special welcome to our conference coordinator, Father John Kennedy, who is here. He is residing at Delhi, and he is the person in charge who coordinates entire activity of ecology in the South Asia Conference. So he has taken a big trouble and lots of interest to be with us. So thank you, Father Kennedy, for being here. I also want to take this opportunity to welcome and thank our Western Zone coordinator, Father Fraser, who is our the key man in keeping us together, and especially his initiative in attaining zero bill for electricity, cutting down fossil fuel, has been very motivating for all of us. So all the 4 provinces, that is Pune, Goa, Gujarat, and Mumbai, are taking a lead in this, investing personals, investing money in achieving this. So thanks to Father Fraser, and a hearty welcome to you. I also want to welcome Father John Kennedy, who is here. Father John Kennedy is the secretary for the secretariat called in the province Justice and Ecology. So technically this Gujarat Eco-Jesuits come under the umbrella of Justice and Ecology of the Gujarat province. So he's also here. I heartily welcome. So finally, I want to extend my very warm welcome to Soumya Datta, who has been accompanying us for more than a year. Number of talks he has given us. He is not an unknown figure to us, especially for some of the Jesuits, but he can talk even for a month without any notes. That is proficiency of him, and you will realize that if you don't tell him that we need a break, he will not leave you, because that much is his interest. And you can see that he will connect to you what is happening in the climate, and he will take you how that climate is affecting the vulnerable, whether the poor in the urban area or whether the poor in the so-called the rural area, how they are affected, and how the rich are becoming richer and the poor are becoming poor, suffering the climate change and feeling the wrath in their lives. So today he is with us, and I'm happy he accepted us to come all the way. And I'm sure that Father Cedric will introduce him when he is going to speak about the purpose and objectives of this workshop. So with this note, I welcome all of you. We have a team of Jesuits working in this area. Province of Gujarat has allocated 4 Jesuits. I will talk about this a little later on. That these Jesuits, we work all through the year trying to bring about social justice in the field of climate change and ecology. So with this note, I welcome all of you, students, sisters, Jesuits from other provinces, social workers, and everyone who is here, scholastics who have come, brothers from the juniorate to be part of it. So for all of you, welcome. And I'm sure that at the end of this around 2 days workshop, we will certainly learn certain things, facts about the climate change. And this workshop also will motivate us to become the green warriors, warriors for whom we work to protect the Mother Earth. So, with this, very quickly, I want to present before you what are our works in the province. So, our old team is called the Province Eco-Jesuits, and we basically work on the two elements, that is, province apostolic planning, preference. So, this preference is based on what the Society of Jesus has done in the worldwide context. So, one of the preference that we have is to care for the Mother Earth. So, this is one element we work, and the other element is the localized project, which we carry on, in which we work about transformation, bringing about lots of green initiative within the province. I'll just quickly go through. So the work began from Father Lancy, who will be here with us tomorrow with his team. He has done lots of work on ecology, bringing about awareness and whatnot, including eco-spirituality, demonstration network, eco-education, traditional medicine network. So all these sort of works he has carried out. So from him, we have taken up this a new team in which we all work. So the team constitutes of the secretary, which is Father Kennedy, who is our head, and we have other four members, Father Melvin, Father Rayapin, Father Francis, and myself. So each one of us, we take up one component and work. We also have an extended committee. We have chosen some people and some Jesuits who help us more than the four members. So these are the four areas in which we work. Some of us, we work on the spirituality and awareness among the schools and among the people. And this component is taken care by Father Melvin. And you have Father Francis, who is here, who is supposed to take it up, setting up the model farming in 3 important places in Gujarat, and he's working at it. So lots. And the chairs that you see is made up of the plastics, the recycled one. Okay, so the activities also get extended. We call it a BP day, that is Bring Plastic Day. So Bring Plastic Day means that once a week the students bring the plastic at home. So they come and collect it, and the Bisleri people come and they collect it, and they give you a report at the end of the initiative. So sufficient amount has been collected. They will reward you either with benches or with other transformed items that they have. Okay, so these are some of the activities among the students. They are involved in the tree plantation awareness program. We also have eco-spirituality activity in which we are able to produce this prayer book. The author for this prayer book has been Father Raymond and Father Jimmy, who have written both in English and Gujarati. It has been sent to all the communities. Those of you who would like to have more, please contact me. We shall send you. So this has been just released last month and very well made with the very selected topics on ecology. So again, there are conferences involving students. We also take into AI component how AI can also influence in protecting and giving climate justice. So there are conferences are being held. We have a talk based on that. Father John Kennedy has been a resource person. So part 2, we have a local project which is sponsored by Gujarat province itself. So in this project, we have 4 important elements, that is solar. The solar is there. Then you have natural resources management, agriculture, that is setting up the model farm, spirituality awareness, and finally you have the research and advocacy. So what is our ultimate aim as a team, as a province? So we want to achieve that zero bill one day, and we want to create at least 3 to 4 model farms where that can become an example for others to follow. And of course, awareness, sensitization will carry on. And we also trying to develop a high quality microbial-based biofertilizer for farmers, where we allow or where we help the farmers to produce quality products so that their life gets enhanced. So what has been achieved so far? You can see that we have established so far 650 kV. Of course, some have existed already before. We added new solar panels to the province. Currently, the project is only for the Jesuits, but when it opens up for the others, we will come to know and we will let you know. Okay. So then Father Francis is doing a marvelous job in establishing a model farm in 3 places. Currently, 1 is undertaken, 2 more to come. So these are some of the activities to make a model farming. And some of the trees also he has planted them. So purpose is to produce this nutritional vegetable garden, also to increase the green belt capacity. So some of the activities are given here. And Melvin is involved in bringing about awareness program, and he's supposed to conduct the spirituality. He is not here currently. So we have chosen some of the schools, parishes in which we work, and these are the some of the activities that we conduct regularly. So eco-spirituality we had in this very campus itself, Mass. That was our previous activity, where about some 23 participants have participated. And Father Ambrose guided the retreat. So we never had the class talk or wall within the wall, but we were all the time out in the environment, going about conducting lots of activities and praying to God for social justice and ecology improvement. So these are some of the pictures. Then comes the research and advocacy. So in this, we are trying to promote no to inorganic farming. That is, we want to avoid any chemical fertilizer. Not very easy to convince the farmers. It's very difficult, but about 150 farmers have undergone this training, and they are convinced, at least for themselves, they are able to produce some vegetables. Of course, the cash crop, they will continue with using the the chemical fertilizer. slowly we believe the transformation will come, and one day they will be convinced to completely adopt for this organic farming. So basically, this is called as the integrated farming practices. This includes three techniques. One is the natural farming, organic farming, and microbial-based biofertilizer. So all the techniques we teach them, we also give them lab-produced microbial pesticides as well as biofertilizer for them to use. And it has been going on for the last 1 year. So there has been a training program that has gone over the period. As I said, just last week we have completed 150 farmers. So it is not that we give them the training and we come away, but we accompany them all through the year. So we go back and visit, ask them what are the difficulties, and also ask them what are their success stories. So these are all training program that has gone. So these are some of the compounds we taught them, and they are thorough with this. They are thorough. So a number of repetition has been given to them so that they completely absorb what the technique we teach them, and they put into practice as well. So you can see that these are some of the elements that are taught, and they have them in their houses, all these units. So these are the training program. So you can just see that this is the market price. So it's not that the market does not have the organic fertilizer. You have them, commercially produced, but their price is rather very high. And compared to that, what technique we teach them, so the price is almost nominal. So economically very viable, and also I will show you the products. Some of them are being made through this technique. So these are some of the technique they use, very simple technique, and they see a lot of good fruits out of that. Okay, so these are again technique, and they have used them in their respective fields. We go and visit them regularly. And again, in different places, we have started training. This is in Vadodara, what we underwent the training. Vadodara, we have just finished. So this is called what is known as, now we started distributing something called magic soil. So magic soil is the consortium of microbes that help the plant to grow. So we have isolated them, worked at it, experimented on them, and we have produce this magic soil. So when you leave this workshop on Sunday, as a gratitude gift, you will receive a packet of that microbial soil where you can go and prepare and test them in your plants that you have at your home. And I'm sure that after using them for a week or two, you will see those plants really smiling more beautifully than what it was. So that is the kind of a gift that we want to give you when you leave from here. We will also give you a liquid fertilizer, a small liquid fertilizer, 50 ml, that also you can test and see that what we are saying is not bluffing, but you will witness for yourself when you take it home. So that is on Sunday, waiting for you. So these are the things that we have distributed among the people. So 150 farmers have undergone. So this is a liquid fertilizer, which will give you, this is about, so we have produced so far about some 350 liters of this, and distributed in various places, and a sample of that will reach to you on Sunday. Okay, so these are some of the things. What did we achieve out of these integrated farming practices? So we have these many vegetables have been grown. They are very fresh, very nice, and you see, you take any of these products, keep them for 4 or 5 days on the table. You bring also a market product and keep them on 5-6 days. You will find the market product easily getting deteriorated, dried, and gone away. But whereas this one, it stabilizes, also gives you a good nutritional value. So these are some of the villages. They have produced all these vegetables. So they have given me a sample for this. The wheat being grown out of this, maize being grown out of this, haldi being grown out of that, number of vegetables. This is also in one of the father's house in Modasa. Look at the size of the beetroot, is very big. So that because the soil is so fertile, and because this soil did not receive any chemical fertilizer for last 10 years and above. and we could see when we test the soil how rich this soil is. So that is why we convinced the farmers that it is important for you to go into this organic farm. Okay, so I don't want to take much time. All these people have undergone the training. Look at the chili in one shot, how many just come. So our aim is ultimately to make the farmers into scientists. So they should produce these biofertilizer what we are producing in the lab. So ultimately we want to establish a unit among the farmers, and we will be helping them in establishing this very soon. Okay, so this is a big dream, and we have a biofertilizer center as part of this initiative in the college campus itself. So we deal with lots of vegetable waste, food waste, and kitchen waste. Food waste, kitchen waste, also the leaf waste, we deal with them, convert them into biofertilizer, give them back for the gardeners to use it around the campus. So this advocacy we had last year workshop, very successful. Soumya Datta was our our chief guest, and Father Cedric was our once again convened this. So we also associate ourselves with networking with the Western Zone. So where Father Fraser is in charge. So we also carry out all these activities. So the respective provinces also do this work. So I only presented what is belonging to Gujarat. Each one of them also carry out efficiently. So Father Kennedy will talk more about that Western Zone initiative and tell us what way we are doing it. Okay, so with this, today we come to this activity, and for all of you, hearty welcome. With this, we thank you. Okay, so as part of the initiative, without lighting the lamp, I thought, being ecology, we will water the plant. Okay, so I request Father John Kennedy, our coordinator for South Asia Conference, one more John Kennedy, our coordinator for social action and ecology, Father Fraser, our coordinator for Western Zone, Cedric, the convener, hoping you to come here, and Soumya Datta, who is our resource person, and our prince from Xavier's College. We are a student from botany. Also, I invite all of them to just symbolically pour water to this plant and nurture it. Get the chair from beginning.
Let them come in front. There are empty chairs.
So we have some more students from the Department of Sociology and Economics. So once again, on their own, they have come, taken initiative. So we welcome all of them. So can I now request Father John Kennedy, our conference in charge, South Asian level, to address the gap.
Good evening to all of you. Good evening. At the outset, I would like to place on record my sincere thanks to the Western Zone. This zone is a real model for the conference. You know, South Asian Conference of the Jesuits consists of 6 countries: India, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan. So we are working in all. Divided the whole conference into 4 zones. So north zone, central zone, south zone, and this is west zone. West zone. To tell you the fact, west zone has been remaining as a model for the entire conference in terms of ecological works. So hats off to everyone, starting from Father Fraser, Suresh, Nazareth, and Siju. Siju is on his way, I think. Yeah, thank you for coming. So these marvelous people are showing as a model. Wherever I go, in any common forum, I always make it a point to mention this model. And this model also, I am also the conference secretary for school education. For this wonderful workshop that we are going to have. My message is very simple. June 6th. Full of beauty of God. Anything that you see reveals the beauty and the presence of the divine majesty. That is what it is. St. Ignatius of Loyola, when we do the long retreat, the last meditation, contemplation to attain love, in which he mentions that God of history toils in the earth. So the world is charged with the grandeur of God. 12th century poet, 12th century saint Francis of Assisi, he had that cosmic feeling. We all belong to one earth, so all of us are relatives. That's why he used to call a crow uncle. He used to call a dog auntie. So don't call, if you go out, don't call these dogs there. They might come and touch you and so that cosmic sensitivity, the cosmic sense that he had, we all belong to one earth created by the Father, by one God. So faith. So this faith demands that we protect this mother earth. That's first thing. Second one is that Pope Leo speaks about hope. If you look at today's world, it is full of hopelessness. People like Swami Datta gives us some hope because they are actively involved in advocacy, in policy interventions. There are signs of hope here and there, but when you look at globally, it's a dismal picture. Just quote, recently the SP64 in Bonn, Germany was confirmed. SP is a preparation for COP31. Always COP is preceded by this initial discussion and decisions. COP actually is only signing ceremony, that's all. So in that, a lot of hopelessness. Countries did not agree. Did not agree. I went to COP30, which was held in Belém, in Brazil. Lot of hopelessness. Last day, the aula was filled with all the leaders of the countries, and they were speaking about phasing out of fossil fuels. They want to phase out fossil fuels. They were proposing, many countries were proposing, at least 56 countries were proposing to phase out time-bound phase out of fossil fuels. 6 countries opposed, 6 countries. And one of those 6 countries was, yes, India, Saudi Arabia, Russia, China, Iran. So 6 countries opposed. So finally, there was no agreement on time-bound phase out of fossil fuel. They said it is left to each country, you decide. That's why our Prime Minister announced by 2030, India will become 50% carbon neutral. I don't know whether it is going to be reality or not, but it is publicly announced. By 2030, India will be 50% carbon neutral. By 2070, India will be 100% carbon neutral. But these are some of the initiatives that Suresh and Father Fraser and others are taking to reduce this bill. So the second one is, in the time of hopelessness, where leaders are not seriously taking this problem, we people have to promote this hope, because in the Bible you see people, unknown paths they have taken, believing in the historical God. Take Abraham. Even the creation of the earth, at the beginning of the world, there was confusion. But the Spirit entered, there was clarity and order. The Spirit is marching with us. Mother Mary believed the Spirit and lost in the unknown. So the Pope says, have this hope. Amidst hopelessness, darkness, have this hope that the historical God is journeying with us in this path. So first one is first theme, because that is clear. Second is hope, and third is love. He says we must be impelled and inspired by love to embrace the whole cosmos. That love must be the inspiring force, a dynamic force, dynamite from within to embrace everything. He calls the politicians to have political love, which discerns and decides in favor of the unfortunate, in favor of the poor. He says, have political love, have social love. One is a beautiful brought out, social love. The love has got social dimension, where you embrace the downtrodden. The love has got a political dimension, where political leaders are concerned about the welfare of people and welfare of others. So we need to have love. So, dear friends, these are the 3 messages Pope Leo has been giving us through his presentation. I also like to reiterate these messages. We need to march 3 forces, 3 things that need to guide us: faith, hope, and love. I wish you all the successful workshop. Thank you.
So, thank you, Father Kennedy, for energizing us and stimulating our neurons to get into eco-initiatives and green dreaming. Thank you so much. Can I now invite our Secretary, Father John Kennedy, for Justice and Ecology, to felicitate our chief guest, Soumya Datta, with the shawl. Thank you, Father Kennedy. So I request Father Cedric to come forward to explain to us the purpose of our gathering and what are the objectives of this workshop. I also request him to introduce the speaker and invite him to begin the session.
Thank you, Father Suresh.
and good evening, my dear sisters and brothers. It's good to be here. It's good to be here for three reasons. One is because all of us come from many different backgrounds, perhaps different kinds of engagements and experiences. That is the first. The second is, I'm not sure who's the senior most here, but I think if I go by purely by birth of date, then I think I might have to claim that privilege. But we have so many young faces, youth, people perhaps beaming and teeming with aspiration, with hopes, with perhaps expectations, and with concern of what is happening. And the third reason why it is good to be here is that we are going to be beginning, we have already begun with that very elaborate and meaningful presentation by Father Suresh. We are going to have an interactive workshop, and which is going to be facilitated perhaps by one of the great environmentalists, scientists which the country has today. I'll introduce him later. A lot of work and concern is being done. A lot of initiatives are taken. Father Suresh has so beautifully explained and presented the work done by the Gujarat Eco-Jesuits here. And every one of us in Pune, in Goa, in Bombay, in different parts of Maharashtra, all along the Western zone. And Father Kennedy spoke about this great South Asian assistancy with 6 countries and about 20 provinces. Much is being done all over. While he definitely has applauded us as Western region, and thank you for that. But I'm sure there are many, many other grassroots initiatives being done and so on. He referred to Pope Leo speaking to this Australian summit just now, Faith, Hope and Love, which was very important, which in a way sets the tone of this workshop. It's important. But Pope Leo on the 4th of October, 2025, gave us a kind of a complimentary document which he calls the first apostolic exhortation called Dilexi Te. Pope Francis, a year earlier, wrote on Dilexit Nos, he has loved us, and the apostolic exhortation of Pope Leo XIV was this Dilexi Te, I have loved you. He basically says, I'm complimenting, he says, what Pope Francis has already begun. He has begun speaking about this. But he says, God's love, which is manifested and radiant so much for us today, is a first Friday of the month. And for those who are Catholics here, we speak about the Sacred Heart of Jesus. His love for us is unconditional, is merciful and so on. But he wants us to radiate the same love to others. And Pope Leo, in this apostolic exhortation, speaks about a very powerful thing. He said, unless we touch and address, transform, change the structural causes of poverty, we will truly not be able to love the poor. We need to look at what is structural. We need to look at what is systemic and what is endemic, at the root causes. One thing he says is giving charity. He's not denigrating or decrying it very clearly, but he says no. He's taking a cue from Pope Benedict, who earlier says, just now charity has a new meaning for basically taking a stand for social justice on behalf of the poor and so on. And then just now he has given us on the 15th of May his very powerful encyclical, Magnifica Humanitas, in which he literally elaborates the theme and he says, let's not be dehumanized. And he speaks only about social justice while he speaks about the environment. So when we were talking, we are doing a lot of good work. And none of us should in any way denigrate the good work that is being done. It must be continued to be done. But how do we create systems and procedures that are looking at the big picture and are going to help us address the structural causes of climate change, of global warming, of ecological degradation, of literally environmental abuse? Can we do something about it? It means understanding it, reflecting on what's happening at a local level, and perhaps responding. So there on your files, in your folders, you have the 3 clear objectives of this workshop, which has begun now, and it will go on till the Sunday, the 5th of July. And that is very symbolic. On that day, Father Stan Swami was murdered. And one of the last persons who spent a lot of time with Father Stan Swami there in the Holy Family Hospital in Bandra was Father Fraser Mascarenhas. And he is literally the juridical person on behalf of the Jamshedpur Jesuits, still appearing to literally plead the total innocence of Father Stan, which the NIA has not yet granted. On that day, 5 years ago, on the 5th of July, Father Stan Swami was killed. He belonged to the Jamshedpur Jesuits. He worked a lot in the Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh area, but he gave his life for a jungle or jameen. He was an environmentalist to the core of the Adivasis, of the subaltern groups. So it was in a way of fitting, say, we have got a kind of environment to work on. We have got an icon to work on. We have got an expert, a man of tremendous experience to guide us. So our first objective is, what is our grassroots response to global warming, to climate change, to ecological degradation, to what is happening around us? Growing trees is important, but if you do a Google and see what Soumya Datta says about growing trees, you may even stop growing trees. Okay? He says definitely that is not the solution. There are far more important ways. He's not saying don't grow trees, we must grow trees. It is about understanding of both climate and the earth systems. How do you understand what is happening? Okay, John Kennedy referred to Bellum. I think the only Indian who has gone to so many of the COPs not being in the government or an official has been Soumya Datta. He too was in Brazil. And he contributed tremendously even to the thinking and the critiquing of what has happened both in Brazil and in other parts. The third is, what are the impacts on the poor? Most of us are working with the poor, with the vulnerable sections of society. How do we understand this? How do we respond to this reality? Because in front of our face, as it was for Father Stan Swami, the face of the poor, the face of those who had nowhere to go, the face of those through the corporates, through the mining, through the big mafia. Their lands were taken. We are talking about a global initiative of the Jesuits and of the world to reduce fossil fuels, to address it. And it is one country that is increasing. So 2030 is supposed to be the destination. We are already halfway past 2026. Where are we going? So unless we come to the nitty-gritties of this, unless we address it wholeheartedly, unless we begin perhaps having smaller groups to address both the structural, the systemic, and the endemic forms of what is happening to causing climate change, global warming, and the environmental degradation, what is happening. Just say the Great Nicobar project that is happening. It's terrible. Is our conscience touched? As individuals, as collectives, as a nation, are we protesting about it? There are serious things happening everywhere. How do we do it individually? How do we do it collectively? Introducing Soumya Datta means, in fact, not much of an introduction. As Father Suresh has told you, he has been accompanying us for more than a year, and he has taken the trouble. He was, if you look at his Facebook page, one day in Srinagar, he's traveled the whole night from Ratnagiri. He's been with groups all over. He's basically, without having that PhD, a top-notch scientist, environmental scientist. He's an environmental activist, and he belongs to many groups, both of South Asia and the world over, on climate change. He is supposed to, so he has been in several key organizations. He is also the co-convener of the South Asian People's Action on Climate Crisis. He is a researcher, he writes a lot, he facilitates grassroots groups like this. So what you're going to have, my dear sisters and brothers, in the next couple of days is definitely a very highly proactive and enriching workshop. For this, we all call to participate, give our best. It might be long hours and so on. It's not easy to be sitting, but let's contribute. Let's critique. Let's disagree with Soumya. Let's disagree with one another, but let's find a path in which we can truly say we are responding to what is happening to us, because as Pope Francis says in Laudato Si, he says, we have to be concerned. What type of world are we going to leave to our children? If we don't act now, the future is going to be very bleak. I'm not a pessimist, I'm an optimist, and we have always spoken about plenty of hope, and here we have a hopeful man in front of us. But let's get involved, let's get engaged, let's create a lot of bonding, and let's give ourselves wholeheartedly to this interactive workshop. Thank you for being here today and listening to me.
Before Soumya occupies the stage, some logistics instructions. So by now, I guess you have settled in your rooms. Some may have AC, some may not have AC. Those who do not have AC, please keep the windows open. We have brought the weather to a soothing condition. So please adjust yourself. For all the meals and for tea and coffee, we go to the building called the Indigo building. It's the last building from the lane. And for all the sessions, we'll have it here. Okay. So vegetarian, non-vegetarian food is available there. So depending on choice, please feel free and stay healthy and contribute a lot to this initiative. So with this, I hand over to Soumya. Welcome.
Good evening to everyone, and thank you for the lovely introductions. And I think today's world, not only in the climate, the scientific, environmental, ecological sphere, but even in the country and in the larger world, faith, hope, and love is very much needed. In fact, if you look at the political and social sphere, it's all, in a sense, there are forces which are trying to tear them up, throw them up. So it's even more needed. So let me, can I take on the next slide? One more. Normally, nowadays, I hardly use the PowerPoint. I prefer to speak and interact more. But because today and before that, let me also clarify, as Cedric has told you already, that this evening session, I'll be trying to talk with you and show a few images, data, so that we can, and also go much beyond. We can build up an understanding about what is climate change. Because what I find when I I was introduced, I was in the last 1 month, I think starting early June. First, I was in Uttarakhand in Doon University for a Himalayan school, Himalayan Action School. Then in another place in Uttarakhand, Kandikhal, Abab Mussoorie, for a big socialist group gathering, trying to understand climate and ecological justice issues. Then in Kashmir and then in Ladakh. And last I was in Konkan, which had a large fight, public mobilization, resistance against the proposal of a whole bunch of nuclear power plants in a very, very beautiful place, which is agriculturally very rich. Culturally rich and also agriculturally very rich. The belt of Alfonso mango, cashew, and fish. So in this 1 month, I am seeing and what has been told about that people are still trying to work their way through all the repression, all the negative things, all the impacts, and that's a hopeful thing. Oh, again, it was calling to that. No, I just want the. This is the Linux. This is the worksheet. This passport should be a problem. Okay, let me just. This underscore is here. Hello. So first today we will be trying to reach an understanding, and I will welcome all kinds of questions even if not directly related to what exactly I'm saying. Because as Father Cedric said, if you disagree, and I know if you don't disagree, I'll try to provoke you also by statements which might hurt your deeply held beliefs about environmentalism and environmental action, not about the other beliefs, but about what is good, what is actually. So this I'll come to a little bit later in understanding the climate, but let me also give a few points before I go into showing some data. Okay, fine. So one is why today we are, as Eco-Jesuits and also some students and all students are, in many places students, teachers are showing interest. In fact, I remember I wrote probably the first book in India on popular science book on climate change in 2007. That was the International Year of Science, 2007. And DST, that is the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, they requested few people to write very short booklets within 50 pages, that means 48 pages, at a level where a high secondary pass student can read and understand. So I wrote on climate change. That was the first popular science book in India. It was called The Science, Economics and Politics of Climate Change. So it was not the environmental drivers of climate change. It was science, economics and politics of climate change. So my first question to you is, why, if we are talking about climate change, why science and politics and economics should come in? Anyone, even students? Why should, like some economic students are there, you said, why should economics come in? What has got to do with climate change? Anyway, I'll come to that. Let me give a global picture. When did environmental issues, including climate change, and I don't refer to it climate change. I have changed over. I'm saying it purposefully. I have changed over to calling it the climate crisis or the climate change crisis. And if you look through the perspective of the people who are impacted the most, who are at the front line, it is a crisis. And I'll give examples. But there was a point of time globally when climate, pollution, all of these, pollution of the air, pollution of water, noise pollution, all of these were considered as environmental problems. It did change in 1972, quite a long time back, when the global political leaders, including our then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, they went to the Stockholm Conference and they realized that the problems of environmental pollutions, including climate, which was then not as serious as today, cannot be solved by scientists or environmentalists. They can point out what is happening, they will do the studies, but the solution do not lie in science. That was a fundamental understanding. Solution to climate or pollution problems don't lie in science. This lies in politics and economics, what we call the political economy of climate. So that was one understanding. I'm giving an indirect answer. Later on, I'll clarify more. Next, it took 20 years from 72 to 92 to actually do something on this on a global scale. In these 20 years, a lot of discussions happened. You might also know there are Brundtland Commission report, the sustainability, concept of sustainability, all this came in. In the 80s, the Brundtland Commission report came in. It's very vague. Brundtland Commission report don't give you any handle to do work. It's very vague report, though it was hyped quite a bit. But ultimately, in 1992, at that point it was around 197, but more than 170 countries came together with the same understanding that, okay, we have agreed that this global problem is a political and economic problem. Science is involved. A lot of science is needed to be done because before 92, 4 years before, the countries together established the IPCC. In 1988, IPCC was established, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And the task given, the mandate given to IPCC was studying climate change, not solving climate change. Studying climate change, the physical science of climate change, what is the state of the climate change now, which direction it is going, how fast it is developing, and what needs to be done or can be done. But what will be the actual actions that were not decided by IPCC, not even today is this. IPCC only does the studies and points to actions possible, which can be helpful. So that is the scientific body, IPCC. But after 4 more years, in 92, all of you might have heard about, but except the young students here, there was an Earth Summit in 1990. The first Earth Summit was in 92. And in the Earth Summit, for the first time, 3 global environmental compacts, 3 agreements were reached. One obviously is on the climate change, what we call United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, that most people have heard about. A lot of writing on that has happened. There was a second very important convention, which was UNCBD, in the same meeting, Earth Summit, United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity. So there was a whole set of procedures there also, parallel to groups, etc. But there was a third global environmental compact or a convention launched in the same Earth Summit. Anyone can mention that? I think some people know. In the Earth Summit, when climate, biological diversity, both were taken in as an action agenda politically and economically, globally, multiple governments, there was a third global environmental agreement, and that is UNCCD, United Nations Convention on Combating Desertification. Because that we don't hear too much, and these are interconnected, but desertification is one of the major challenges in the world. It's not only driven by climate change, but climate change is contributing. And desertification is also contributing to climate change. So it's a two-way relationship. So these 3, it took, as I said, it took 20 years for the world. Actually, the political processes globally, even in national scale, move very slowly. We might decide something today, and 1 week later, like I do, I decide to go to some movement group, engage with them. Like last month, I was in Pune, and I interacted with the West Workers, the Women West Workers Union, KKPKP. And within a few days, we decided an action, what action needs to be launched to prevent impacts, adverse impacts on the West workers or reduce the impacts. We decided, and things are being worked out for action. Globally, actions don't happen like that. So it took 20 years for the understanding to start action in the 3 UN convention: climate change, biological diversity, and combating desertification. And after that, last year, where Father Kennedy was there also, last COP was my 18th climate COP. So 30th COP has happened globally. Every year it happens, only 2020 it didn't happen because of COVID. So that happened in 21. We have had some progress. Globally, we had some progress, but the climate scenario, I'll come into that, the climate scenario has deteriorated significantly. In fact, one of the major issues that we are now globally, scientists are very, very concerned about is what IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, is the top scientific body, as I said, set up by UN to work on climate change, to find the science, to validate the science, to find out which direction it is moving, multiple things, how fast it is moving. But one thing we have seen, that consistently actual changes on the ground, on the earth, in the earth systems. I will come into what the earth systems are, why it is important to understand them. That change has gone much faster than what IPCC projected. IPCC, when they project, they run multiple models, simulations, not one simulation, not one model, multiple models, and they try to bring out some kind of a mean, an ensemble. So that process gives a result which is actually much lower than the actual changes that are happening. Afterwards, I will come to that also. But let me come back to something very basic. So we are talking about, I think there is no one here or even in schools who have not heard the name climate change. It's true. Everyone even in schools above class 6, 7 must have heard climate change. Last 20 years it is so popular. In fact, I was asked to write a book in 2007 because I was taking workshops all across India for science teachers. Oh, that also reminds me because you mentioned, Father Suresh mentioned that education. I was also the founding convener of National Children's Science Congress, which was probably the largest intervention in school science education, in improving school science education. And it ran at one point of time, it ran in 500 districts. So I was interacting with large number of science teachers, both in high schools, higher secondary schools and colleges, all across India. Must have gone in around 240, 50 districts also. So one of the major questions they used to ask, see, students are asking about climate change and we don't have anything in our hand. We get something from the newspaper, something from science reporter, but we don't have anything comprehensive which we can read, understand and answer the students, engage them. So I was requested, I wrote a book in 2007. But after that, a lot of books have been written. Now internet is full of literature on climate change, but there is a caution that a lot of these are also rubbish. What you find in a lot of internet sources, some are very good, some are okay, but also something very wrong. Because this fear, like in other human endeavor, is not just plain good intention people trying to clarify and give. There are a lot of vested interest in confusing, a lot of vested interest in misdirecting us, creating miscommunication, wrong understanding. A lot of these are also there. So if one is to depend only on internet, which today is unfortunately the reality for maybe 80% of the people or more, so they will have to be very, very careful. So again, I will come back. What is climate change? Some of you, I discussed this in the last workshop also. So some of you might really know, but let us understand what is climate change. Anyone answer? I'm asking a question. Anyone can answer. What is climate change? Please don't think that wrong answers, right answer. This is a process that we'll be interacting and we'll be building up some understanding. So I'm trying to be a little interactive, provocative, and this is also a method by which I'll also come to understand where do we collectively stand. So what is climate change is my question. Students, anyone else? Anyone, please. Please.
Very fact that the rains have not come for 1 month shows that there is a change in the climate. And there is a reason for that. And so we are discussing that.
But what is that? That's true. But I can call it rain change, rain timing change. Why climate change? So I'll go one step. Before we understand climate change, we must understand what is climate. So what is climate? Anybody, please. Yes.
Changes in the natural cycles due to human activities, like shifts in global temperature.
But this is very due to changes natural cycle. Natural cycle can be how rivers move, or even how wind is flowing, everything. Even how the sun is shining, that's also part of nature. So precisely what is climate? Because unless we understand what is climate, how do we understand what is climate change? Something I don't know. So I don't know whether it is changing or not changing. So what is climate? Yes.
Temperature that is suitable for body.
Temperature, like in the morning it's low, afternoon it is high, evening and night it is again low, and winter it is low, summer it is high. So how does it change? So that's, let me, okay. The next slide. Oh, sorry, I have that, sorry. So we have to understand the difference between weather and climate. Like all of this you are saying is part of weather. The present moment, right now, in this place, whatever this place is called, this area is called, not even Baroda, this area, you have at a particular place, at a particular time, a temperature. Where is the temperature measured? I am purposefully asking this because unless we understand clearly, this will be helpful tomorrow onwards. Tomorrow onwards, we will go into the actual impacts and exactly how to measure. I'll also show you some simple instrument and how we can improve the condition of the marginalized people who are at the forefront. But before that, we must understand what is climate change, what are the differences between climate and weather, how do we know that climate has changed. So you can have this, I'll circulate. So climate and weather are different. Climate is a bigger thing. Weather, what is weather? At one point, any one time, but normally it is measured as a day. You average out. That's how globally meteorological centers measure. What is the air temperature? Temperature of the air, not of the ground, not your body, not of the trees, air temperature. That's one measurement, critical measurement. Total amount of rainfall in 24 hours in that day. That's the second measurement. Wind speed average. That's the third. Wind direction, predominant wind direction. How much is the insolation? Insolation is how much solar radiation is falling in 1 square meter at peak. Insolation. How much is the barometric pressure? So all these are parameters which constitute the weather of a day of a place. So if I search what is the average weather of, what is this place called? Sevasi. So what is the weather of Sevasi on July 3? Then all these parameters will come. This air temperature, total rainfall in a day, wind speed, wind direction, average down, insolation, barometric pressure, all of these will come. And then that, if we accumulate, measure, keep measuring year after year, the 30-year average of a particular day's weather at a place is the climate of the place. And the 30-year, by convention, there is no scientific reason for 30 years, but the reason why we take 30 years, you see, suddenly there is some volcanic eruption in some country. So some lot of dust and other material goes up into the atmosphere. Temperature drops for 3 months. Or there is sudden, like the sun also varies a little, very little, it's a 11-year cycle. So sun sometimes is a little high, giving more energy, sometimes giving a little less energy. Sun is variable. So that also might put up the temperature or pull down the temperature. To eliminate those short-term variations, a 30-year average is taken. But the climate also is today's climate, July 3 climate of Sevasi is the average of last 3 decades of all these parameters. Like even cloud cover is different. So weather is local and keep varying. Will keep varying. But weather do not indicate climate change. Weather keeps varying, morning, evening, afternoon, today, tomorrow. So this is weather. Next, and sorry, all weather, all climatic variation except the global cycles happen within the troposphere. That is the first layer of the atmosphere, and that layer varies. In summer it expands to up to 15 kilometers. In winter and night it comes down to 8 kilometers. So the troposphere also is not fixed. It varies. So within the troposphere, all kinds of climatic and weather phenomena happens. Only very few select things happen in the stratosphere, beyond that. So everything that we are talking about in weather and climate generally happens within the lowest level of the atmosphere, which is the troposphere. Next, please. And the climate is the aggregate. That means you measure for the same day. Every day you are measuring. U means the weather station is measuring. And today you can set up a weather station for around 15,000-16,000. So I want one shorter version I keep carrying most of the places. So 30 years of the same day, same place. Once you have measured, then you know what is that climate. So it's not just rainfall I see or temperature I feel or something I feel. It's the scientific measurement that what was the average for the last 3 decades. If this year there is a statistically significant difference, then you see, okay, now the climate is no longer that average climate. And that too, to finally arrive at the decision, you have to have 10 years, what is called decadal record. One decade, record of 1 decade. So that's what climate is defined, different from weather. All the parameters remain the same. But climate is 30 years or 3 decades of average of the same place, same day. And if you call a month, then the month, but the same area. Okay? So this is climate and climate change and weather. So then, if we see that the average temperature over last 30 years in Sevasi was this, and this year, many of the days we are having average temperature either higher, significantly higher or significantly lower, or the wind speed significantly higher or lower, then you say it seems there is a climate change this year, which is deviating significantly from the 30-year average. But then also you cannot come to a conclusion, and that is a problem for rigorous science, because we don't immediately conclude there is a climate change. It might be a blip for some reason. So we have to go for 10 years. And in these 10 years, we have measurements in the world for 170 years now. Globally, we have climate and weather measurements, basically weather measurements for 170 years. So we have instrumental measurement, and we have, which is called proxies, that means fossil climate record, paleoclimatic record for last 2 million years, 20 lakh years, by different methods, by ice cores, by lake bed, by deposits, seabed deposits. Those are called proxies. You are not directly measuring, you are seeing some other impact and inferring what was the temperature like, what was the carbon dioxide concentration like, what was the humidity like. So like as an example, if all of you know about tree rings, trees grow a ring every year. So every year there is a ring, but if the temperature and humidity is very good, the tree will grow more. So the ring difference will be a little wider. But if there are 10 years of drought or very low temperature, trees will not grow well. So the rings will be very narrow. So these are proxies. This is not, we have not measured with a thermometer or a rain gauge. We have not measured, but this is a proxy. So there are many other proxies like that. I'll not go into that. That's how we can go back to, at least now, we know last 2 million years, 20 lakh years climate. And This is how we are arriving at the conclusion. From 1970s, every decade has varied significantly from the previous decades and the average climate. From 1970s, it became very clear. I'll show that also. But now it is clear what is weather, what is climate, and then from climate, if it is changing in 10 years, next 10 years, or this 10 years is different from the earlier 30-year average, then there is a climate change. And these are examples of climate extreme events, like you are saying natural cycles I will come into, but that's not so easy to understand. That's why I'll come to that a little later. See, many of you today, all of you probably read or watch some, today now this many YouTube videos are coming with lot of good scientists. Now many scientists, top-notch climate scientists like Stefan Ramsdorff, Tim Lenton, who are top-class. Hansen don't make videos, but Stefan Ramsdorff, Tim Lenton, many of them make online videos, podcasts, and you can see them. And there are a lot of articles, as you know. So you might have heard in Antarctica. Now, what is Antarctica facing? Which is the season in Antarctica now? Anyone? We are having in here summer, peak winter. Antarctica now is having peak winter. It's a southern hemisphere bottom. You know what was there is a station here. In this place, there is an Argentinian station, this place. It's called Esperanto Station. What was the temperature recorded for the last 7-8 days? Continuously. Normally, it should be minus 10, 20. The temperature recorded in the Esperanto Station was 15.6 degrees Celsius plus. Over more 20 degrees more or 20 degrees and over more than the normal of last 30 years. And it is not one day, it's continuing. And there are many other things happening both in the Arctic, Antarctic, our country, every country. You might have noticed last couple of weeks, Europe is facing a tremendously serious heat wave. A lot of people are dying. So Europe means latitudinally much higher, should be cold. UK has reached 39. France has reached 43.5. And this is not once. 2003 European heatwave, European Union themselves calculated there were 70,000 excess deaths due to the heatwave. 70,000 people died, extra deaths took place due to the heatwave. 2024 heatwave, heatwave, the estimate was around 60,000. 24 estimates are not yet available, but within 2 years, now 26, and June is not the peak summer in Europe. June is summer for us, peak summer for us. Peak summer in Europe is around end August, early September. That's the peak. They are already having 40 plus degrees Celsius. So this is way beyond their 30-year average. Way beyond. Nothing comes close. They had once in a year, many years ago, something like 39, 39.6, some fluke, something extraordinary. And year to year it can vary. But consistently, this kind of temperature is clearly abnormal. And that's where climate change comes in. We'll discuss about this, how this can happen. But this is a lot of places things are happening, like the Arctic at the right side, and this has now gone down. The snow and ice cover in the Arctic Circle is actually now melting 4 times faster than it was melting 20 years ago. 4 times faster. And the temperature that is rising in the Arctic Circle is 3 times as fast as in our country. there is an amplification that happens. I'll explain that if needed later on. And this is something that we face, cyclones. You know, we are sitting in Gujarat. Can any one of you tell? Most of you are from Gujarat and Maharashtra. So, which sea you face? Arabian Sea. Was the Arabian Sea cyclone prone? Too much cyclone prone? No. Historical record of 115 years by IMD, India Meteorological Department, shows the Bay of Bengal was very cyclone prone. Right from 150 years or 120 years, whatever we know, we have records. Arabian Sea was much less cyclone. But now, I'm not talking about what will happen. I'm talking about what has already happened and recorded, not by me, by India Meteorological Department, government body, the top government body. And as per that record, from 2008 to 23, the number of cyclones in the Arabian Sea has increased by 92%. Almost doubled. That means one big cyclone on average per year used to come in Arabian Sea, roughly. Now it is 2. Doubled. Almost doubled. The intensity of the cyclones in both both Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea have increased by around 70 to 80%. And the duration of the cyclone of Arabian Sea has increased by 82%. And these are again not which might happen, ho sakta hai, not like that. It has already happened and recorded by a government, top government body, which is the apex body for weather and climate in India. So we have not seen this kind of change super fast and very large scale anywhere else, but it has happened. And that also gives a very clear indication that what we earlier thought, what IPCC projected, is really not being followed by the real world. The real climate system is moving very, very fast, much faster than the IPCC has projected. And it's not IPCC is purposefully doing it. There is a process. If anybody is trying to explain why IPCC's results are conservative ones. They have to be in a sense because the procedure they adopt. So this is the reality. And this is one of the cyclone results. This is the Aila. Massive impact. So as I said, this session is basically to build up the understanding. But please stop me. If any of these are not clear at any point, raise your hand and ask a question on the area that we are discussing. Only then we'll be having a collective understanding building. So it's not that only greenhouse gases are changing the climate. There are multiple reasons through which climate do change. One is solar output. As I said, I'll show you. The sun has an 11-year cycle and a much longer cycle. But the 11-year cycle is, it goes from a little brighter to a little dimmer and a little brighter to a little. You don't know. By eyes we cannot measure. Only instruments can measure. From around 1365 watts per square meter to 1368 watts per square meter. It goes up and goes down. Roughly 11 years. Not exactly 11 years by the day. Roughly 11 years. We still don't know. Scientists don't know the full understanding why it happens. But it happens. It's being recorded for the last 200 years. The solar cycles. We are now in the 25th recorded cycles. Now, right now, we are going to the peak of the recorded 25th solar cycle. It might have been happening for lakhs of years, but instrument records don't exist for lakhs of years, obviously. So that is one, solar output. Earth-Sun geometry. What does it mean? Because the Earth is moving around the Sun in an orbit, a little bit elliptical orbit, but that orbit is not fixed. Unlike we have been taught in school, that orbit itself keeps changing. The Earth is moving, but that orbit itself is moving. Sometimes it becomes a little more elliptical, sometimes it becomes a little more circular, and that changes the time. because it gets more sunlight, sometimes less sunlight, and that has a very long cycle. I'll come to that. That's one. Then interstellar dust, lot of stars, lot of celestial bodies, they send out very microscopic particles. Lot of microscopic. We are always bombarded, and some pass through our atmosphere. So that also dims the sun, sometimes changes the amount of energy that is coming in, that insolation. Insolation is how much solar energy is coming and falling in 1 square meter when it is at vertical. So that is the insolation. That is one impact. These are beyond our control. This is not even on the earth. The earth's climate do change for things which is beyond the earth. And that's a natural climate change, because this is one question. A lot of people, even deniers, say, oh, climate has changed. Naturally hota hai. Why are we bothered with this change? Things have changed earlier. Yes, true. But I'll explain why those changes and the change that we are having now are very, very different. Then there are things in the earth itself or on the earth itself, in and on the earth itself. Like one, volcanic emissions. How many of you heard about the Pinatubo explosion? Pinatubo was a big volcanic eruption or volcano which erupted in 1991. 91, I think. And the global temperature dropped for nearly 6 months plus, because it pumped so much dust in the atmosphere, and with wind it sprayed all across the globe. So it blocked a part of the sunlight, that dust. And it took almost 8-9 months, close to a year, for the dust to again settle down and for the sunlight to again penetrate fully. So that dropped the temperature by 0.5 to 0.6 degrees, which is very large by global standards. So those kind of things can happen. Mountain building can happen and can pump up a lot of carbon dioxide, which over a period increases the temperature. So I'm not going to detail. All of these can happen. But what we are doing now, this pointer also works.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Which one? This one?
Yeah. Center.
The big one, right one, left one. Oh. What we have done, that is the human society have done, is not here. Obviously, we cannot change the sun intensity. There is no thermostat or light stat that will control the sun. That cannot happen. We cannot control the geometry. Okay, we'll make the orbit more circular. We can't do that. These are all beyond the earth. And the forces are immense and much beyond our control. The only thing that we are doing is this we have changed. This as a result has been changed. And this we have changed. These three we have changed drastically. What is the atmospheric chemistry has changed? Everybody knows. The biggest thing is the greenhouse gases. The carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, CFCs, all these gases, the UF6, all these greenhouse gases, which I'll come to what greenhouse gases do also, because that also needs to be understood. So, yes.
We will continue till 7 without break. Then we'll have a break for half an hour. 7:30 is dinner.
Okay.
So we'll continue till 7 o'clock.
Now it is what time?
It's 6:30, another half an hour.
Another half an hour
Okay.
after.
So that today,
The resilience and
So these three, many of you understand that we have introduced so much of carbon dioxide, methane, etc. The chemical composition has changed. The chemical balance has changed. This gas is more now. And carbon dioxide has increased by more than 50%. Before the industrial revolution, the amount was 279 parts per million. That means 1 million molecules in the atmosphere. Out of that, carbon dioxide used to be 279. Now it is 432 or 433. So more than 50% increase within this 200 years, less than 200 years. As a result, many of these gases also reflect sunlight. Aerosols, sulfate particles, sulfur dioxide goes up, turns into sulfate. Sulfur dioxide, most people know, which turns into sulfide and sulfate and then sulfuric acid if it reacts with water. So the sulfate is a very reflective particle. So if we introduce a lot of sulfate, which we did earlier, how do we introduce sulfate? Do we emit sulfate normally or sulfur dioxide? Why? From where? The biggest source is fuels. All petroleum has sulfur in it. Most coal or almost all coal has sulfur in it. So if you burn coal along with carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide will also come. Nitrogen oxides will also come. These are primary pollutants. So sulfur comes from basically fossil fuels. Carbon dioxide also comes from fossil fuels. Partly from deforestation, very small part, but mostly from fossil fuel burning. So that reflectivity has also changed periodically. And the third is surface reflectivity. Yes.
What about the Diwali crackers that we burst with a lot of sulfur? Sent right in the air.
That's such a, if you consider globally, it's true, but it's a very small amount. It has a local impact at that point of time, but it subsides because sulfur dioxide turns to sulfur trioxide, and then with water it becomes sulfurous and sulfuric acid, and it comes down as acid rain, which is another major pollutant. But globally, the biggest amount is from fossil fuels. See, we burn some Diwali crackers too. Anybody has any idea how much coal we burn as a global community every year? Roughly 800 crore tons. 800 crore tons, 8 billion tons of coal is burned annually globally. India burns 1 billion tons, 100 crore tons. A little more. India mines 100 crore tons and burns around 115 crore tons every year. So the amount of sulfur dioxide that goes up from those are much, much bigger. So anyway, so all these can also change. As I was saying, the solar cycle is a roughly 11-year cycle. It's clear that it varies. Blue, red, green lines. So not every year it is the same. It changes. Oh, this one. So, okay, let me continue with this. It will come soon. So these solar cycles I told about, there is a record. These are all recorded. Thank you. And now, as I said, we are past 2020. So up to around 2020, it was the 24th recorded cycle. Now we are in the 25th cycle. So you can see the total input increases and decreases. Increases, decreases. Roughly every 11 years. That's the sun. But these are the natural climate change. This also changes a little, because if the sun is more active, giving more energy, your average temperature will rise by 0.1, 0.2 degrees Celsius. But not beyond that, because it doesn't vary by that much, very little. But the bigger impact is through these 3 cycles. These are called Milankovitch cycles, because Milankovitch first discovered them, calculated them, matched with reality, and then established. The first cycle like this. So the Earth's orbit itself becomes more elliptical and more circular. And this cycle from one maximum elliptical to maximum circular, it takes roughly 1 lakh years, 100,000 years. Okay. And these two are the other cycles. This is called obliquity. That means now what is the axis of the earth tilted at? 23.5. It do not always do that. Sometimes it is 22.5 and up to 24.5. So if it is more tilted, when at a period, the pole star will change, and in summer it will get, northern hemisphere gets more sunlight. So climate becomes hotter. And because the northern hemisphere has more land, southern hemisphere has much more water. So both hemispheres react very differently. So this is the second, and this is the precision. Like what is that toy called? Like we all children played. Top. In Bangla we used to call lattu. So Earth also is doing like that, but the cycle is about 26,000 years. One of these takes 26,000 years. One of these takes 41,000 years. And one of the bigger cycle, this one, is 100,000 years. These three combined, they do climate change over roughly 100,000 years. As we all know, roughly, not exactly 1 lakh years, but roughly, because these three cycles don't coincide exactly. But this has the biggest impact, this one. These two also have very significant impact. These three together causes ice ages to come back every 100,000 years roughly. And again it becomes warm. For around 20,000 years it remains warm. Like we are now in an interglacial warm period. 18,000, roughly 17 to 18,000 years ago, the last ice age ended. So these are the three cycles which cause climate change naturally in the earth and has been causing for millions of years. But one thing that I said, why it is very different, it's 100,000 years. From one ice age to warm interglacial and to ice age, it is 1 lakh years. And plants, animals, everything gets enough time because that change is very slow. It is taking 100,000 years. So change is very, very slow. So plants, animals, all of them get enough time to adjust, slowly evolve. Like today's generation can adjust with a 0.01 degree temperature rise of a plant. Next generation has to adapt to another 0.01 degree. Understood? Not 0.5 degree. So they get enough time. So there is no large scale extinction. Plants, animals still live. They move a little bit, they evolve a little bit. Move means every plant or animal has a range. What temperature range, what humidity range, all of this they have a range. So they can adapt. But what we are doing now, we have created the same change in roughly 150 years. What natural climate change did in 100,000 years, the present, which we call anthropogenic climate change, human caused climate change, which is not exact description. I'll quickly describe why, but this is being called anthropogenic, human caused, not natural. That is causing it in 150 years, roughly. So plants, animals are not getting enough time. So a large-scale study, global study was done by another UN body, multi-country, multi-nation body, which is called IPBES, Intergovernmental Panel on Biological Diversity and Ecosystems. That study, it was by several hundred scientists together, biological scientists. And that study concluded that because of this, not only for this climate change, but what agriculture has done, eliminated natural habitats, fragmented habitats, these two together, agriculture and climate change, that is spread of agriculture and climate change together has caused extinction to a very large extent All of you might have also heard about the sixth mass extinction. Sixth mass extinction. You are raising your hand? No, okay. So now we are in the middle of the sixth mass extinction, and the study says roughly 1 million species is facing extinction in the next 4 to 5 decades. 1 million species, and a very large part of that are insects. Who cares? कीड़े मकोड़े मरने से क्या फर्क पड़ता है ना? Who cares? Why should we care? Because almost all our fruits and vegetables are pollinated by the same insects. And you might have heard about news. Regular news now comes. Bee colony collapse, this insect colony collapse. This is happening all across the world in increasing frequency and increasing geographical spread. So this will be one major challenge for our food system. Much more than, of course, I will come to heat tomorrow, and heat is the fastest rising climate change impact. But globally, the impact on food system, heat also impacts our food system. Globally, the food system is going to be, actually it is leading to collapse. Matlab, in the next 30-40 years, it will be very serious for marginal and small farmers. For moneyed countries, they manage to some extent, because now there are many methods of controlled agriculture, which is called climate smart agriculture, climate controlled agriculture. You have greenhouses, you have polyhouses, you have rooftop vertical gardening, lot of this. But all of this needs lots of money, lots of investment. And roughly in India, what is the number of farming households? Any idea? Anyone? Economic students, all of these are part of economic data. Roughly how many farming households are there in India? Roughly 14.6 crores. Between 14.5 to 15 crores households. And how many of them, roughly what percentage, is small and marginal farmers? Any idea? Anyone? 84%. That's government data. So if 84% of these 15 crore households have no money for investing in climate smart agriculture or climate control agriculture, what will they do? What will they do? That's a big question for all food system in our kind of countries, even in some of the richer countries, because not every farmer can invest those kind of big amount, big structures where everything will be covered. This is possible, technically possible, but not feasible for overwhelming majority of farmers. So what will they do? That's a big question. One more climate change, as I said, Pinatubo volcano. One more climate change driver is volcanoes, but they do for a short while. But sometimes very big, which are called super volcanoes, they can create climate change. And historically, within the last 3,000 years, there are evidences, last 4,000 years, 3,500 years, there are evidences civilizations have collapsed. Okay, we are sitting in India. Can you recall any civilization which has collapsed in our landmass? Harappan civilization. Or Indus Valley, sometime it is called. It's not actually Indus Valley. It's the Harappan civilization. Scientifically, the first city discovered is named after that. And the civilization was not only on Indus. Ghaggar one was major stream. So it's Harappan civilization, but it's also called, loosely called Indus Valley. Why did it collapse? No. We have not, As of now, what evidence do we have is it collapsed because of climate change. We are already at 7? No, 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Good. I'll be finishing in that. So how did we know and what happened? This is important because we might think, oh, some temperature rise, some storms here and there, no, we'll manage. But as I said, food systems is one very critical thing. Food and farmers. If food system collapse, you know, what led to civilization? Let me go back to this. How long are we here? We humans, Homo sapiens. All of you know that we are Homo sapiens. What is our age on the earth? When did you originate? Roughly 3 lakh years. We have evidence now that origin of Homo sapiens, our species, there are many other humanities. Homo erectus was the earlier one. Homo neanderthal, we existed parallelly. Homo floresiensis, we existed parallelly. So many Homo habilis earlier. All Homo, that means human. We are the latest one. We are the only surviving ones. No other human beings survive. So how long have we been on the earth? Roughly 300,000 years. Why didn't we build cities earlier? Or do agriculture earlier? When did we start agriculture? Large scale. Around 10,700 years. Say 10,000 to 11,000 years. Why didn't we do agriculture earlier? In 300,000 years, why didn't we do? This would be a question. Was our brain very small? We have now studies that for last 1,20,000 years, our brain volume was roughly 1300 cc to 1350 cc. Roughly the same. So we are not less intelligent. But we didn't do agriculture. We didn't build cities. One of the major reasons, not the only reasons, is what we call Holocene period. Last roughly 11,000 years had been having the most stable climate in the last 2 million years. If you look at the Holocene, I have the data after a few. If you look at the Holocene, it has the most stable climate in 2 million years. And for agriculture, without very high technology, you need predictable weather. When it will rain, when the temperature will be enough for ripening, when you can expect dry season so that you can harvest. If you don't know that it might rain anytime, might be dry when it is needed to be raining, so then you don't do good agriculture. And the Holocene was the most stable climate. And that's why, in spite of having the brain capacity, Homo sapiens didn't do agriculture earlier. They were hunter-gatherers. It's a primary reason, not the only reason. And the Harappan civilization failed. Now we have enough evidence for that. Because the monsoon system started moving east. Starting around 4,500, 600 years, when the Harappan civilization was at its peak, there are many theories. Earlier people used to say Aryan invasion, but there was no evidence of war or large-scale violence. We have not found in any of the sites. Not in Mohenjo-daro, not in Harappa, not in Kalibanga, not in Dholamira, nowhere. So what we found is lake bed deposits, seeds, all of these, that the rainfall and the silts, rainfall far west has stopped going that far west. Where was the Harappan civilization? Northwest of present-day India and Pakistan. So monsoon was earlier going quite far and having good rainfall. So Indus, Ghaggar, all these systems used to carry a lot of water and silt, which is also very important, like Nile. But once the temperature started going down due to that natural climate change, because we are supposed to be now entering the next glacial phase. From an interglacial one period, we are entering the glacial period. Very slow, as I said, 100,000 years, the change takes place. So very slow. But because of that, the monsoon started withdrawing from so far west. Because the temperature is falling, it cannot go that much. The pulling power, which is created by the heating of the landmass, is not that much. So they had less and less and less water. And that means less surplus food. So Harappan cities were abandoned. Harappan people moved east and north and south. Not too much north, east and south. And we have evidence for that. The late Harappan cities are in the east. Even in Haryana, parts of UP, you find late Harappan cities. But ultimately, they moved out. So one is in our own landmass, we have a clear evidence that climate change can cause a civilization to collapse. Not catastrophically maybe, nothing very big storm or something happened, but that also happened. In fact, this is one reason which we know you can look up. The late Bronze Age collapse. Around 1177 BC, the number of civilization around Mediterranean, the Hittites, the Assyrians, Egyptian, all of them started collapsing. The Egyptian civilization somehow survived in a much smaller state. Many civilizations collapsed one after another. And the reason now again is found that was not because of shift in the climate, because of natural cycles, but because of massive volcanic eruptions. Around 20 years, the global temperature dropped. Like Pinatubo caused half a degree drop for almost 1 year. But supervolcanoes can cause much larger eruption. So around 20 years, there was temperature drop, global drought, particularly in the belts, not very north and very south. South in any case, at that time there was no civilization. Southern hemisphere, because southern hemisphere is mostly water, and some Australia and all, they had no quote unquote civilization. But the late Bronze Age collapse now is shown to be clearly, and we have found scientifically the deposits of that big volcanic eruptions, very thick deposits have been found. So we know that both slow climate change and rapid climate change can cause civilization collapse. But unfortunately, our political and economic leaders or businessmen, corporate houses, sarkare, they think that they can manage. Not only by eliminating forests and like we were having a talk earlier, very thick rainforest we are cutting out to build some cities and power plants. Large scale increase in coal, oil, everything is going on. We are flying more and more rather than traveling by train. 7 times as much expensive energetically. 7 times as much emission for every passenger kilometer if you fly rather than take a train. But we are happily doing that. So it seems that we have forgotten that civilizational collapse had happened in our short history in this area also and in other civilizations. So that's a major concern that we have. This you might have heard, seen many times. What is the science of the global warming? How global warming do happen? This is the scientific explanation. The solar energy comes in, some gets reflected back, some gets absorbed by surface. The surface of the Earth's surface, the oceans, the land, the trees, everything radiates. One important thing that people often miscommunicate or don't understand, the greenhouse gases don't absorb the solar radiation. They allow the solar radiation to pass through because the sun solar surface, the photosphere, is at a temperature of around 5700 to 5800 Kelvin or Celsius, say, little less than 6000. So the radiation that they give, the infrared, is very high energy, very low frequency. That is not absorbed by carbon dioxide or methane or other gases. Whereas the Earth, which is getting a little warmer, how much is the Earth's surface temperature? 30 degree, 40 degree, 50 degree. Whereas 6000 and 50. So the radiation that the Earth's surface gives, water, land, trees, everything, that is very low energy because temperature is very low and long wavelength.
that is absorbed mostly by the greenhouse gases. So the amount of radiation that earlier used to go out, because we have increased this cover of gases, they are now absorbed more. So the temperature is rising, because if you keep more energy, your temperature will rise. Like on a hot day, if you put blankets and blankets, then you will feel very hot. Same thing is happening. So this is basically the science. But I have seen repeatedly people say, oh, greenhouse gases are absorbing solar radiation. No, that's completely wrong. This is just validation. By now, everybody knows the temperature has risen like this. See what I was saying, temperature was before this quite low. But suddenly from around 1960s, why 60s? Because before that there was a lot of sulfur also in the fuels. Coal was dirty, petroleum was dirty. Desulfurization started after 1960s, 70s. But forget about that. This is the carbon dioxide level that has gone up, temperature that has gone up, and simultaneously, see the amount of fossil fuels. All these years, the amount of fossil fuel are rising very slowly. From here, there is roughly the industrial revolution, a jump. But from 1940 or around that time, the Second World War, around that time, it started rapidly rising. There is a very clear, I'll explain this because this is important. This is the carbon dioxide level. It has also started rising faster and faster. This is the temperature level, now rising faster, now even faster. And this is the amount of fossil. So the connection is very clear. But can anybody answer? Tell whatever you feel. Why this sudden rise from around 1945?
1945.
Around 45, 45, 50, around that time. Second, very sharp rise. What happened in 44, 45? The World War II ended. And what happened? Because of that in industry and nations. See, all the industrial machinery that the rich countries, all the warring countries built up. Because the war ended, will they throw them in the sea? Most of them was turned to consumer products. Most factories, most productive capacity was turned into consumer products. And that is the point of time, you can see any record, microwaves, big ACs in US, Europe, big energy consuming, huge cars, they exploded. So fossil fuel consumption was actually driven by industry and corporates, not a natural progression, because they had excess capacity. So this is how capitalism works. They don't bother what will happen to the earth or what will happen to the farmers or how the poor worker will zero the heat. They're not bothered. They are interested by, I have invested 10,000 crores. Okay. So now the war is ended. I cannot produce so many aeroplanes. I cannot produce so many tanks. No market. So let us create a market. And that was the big game when the World Bank and the IMF was created for that. When was the World Bank and IMF created? 44. The Bretton Woods Conference. There's a place in US called Bretton Woods. So there was a very selected, exclusive conference. And in that conference, both these twins were born. The World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. The purpose, stated purpose was development. But if you look through the literature, it clearly says, one is of course reconstruction of Europe, which was devastated in the war by bombings. These fellows, Germany bombing them, they bombing Germany and Italy. So no love, no hope, bomb each other out. But one purpose was reconstruct Europe. But the second purpose, if you look through literature, increase consumerism. Create consumer demand. How do you create consumer demands? Anyone read a book called The Manufacturing of Consent? Please do. If you find it, it should be available. How this consent, that having a bigger house, having cars or 2 cars or 3 cars, having a big refrigerator, 600 liters, how that is a better life than having 150 liter or 165 liter. If you have one small car, you are not living a good life. If you have big SUV or maybe big 2 SUVs, then you must be living a good life, better life. So this consent, this agreement globally was not there. That needs to be understood. It's not natural for human beings to be asking for more and more and more and bigger and bigger. This consent was created by continuing advertisement, continuing quote unquote what the World Bank calls itself. It calls itself a knowledge bank. They didn't call themselves the money bank. The World Bank call itself the knowledge bank and the carbon bank. So this particular economics, but all students, politics, economics, environmentalism, everybody needs to understand. That's why in the beginning, I said global leaders understood long back in 72, this entire gamut of problems is not to be solved by environmentalist or scientist. It can go wrong or it can go correct only through global political and economic intervention and change. One negative change, you can see that very clearly. This was not so negative, but it was there. But from around 45, you can see the change. It's there in data. And this is their data, not data I created. It is their data, OECD data. Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. The 37 richest countries, industrial countries, their collective is called OECD. It is their data. So this climate crisis, along with if you burn this crores and hundreds of crores of tons coal and oil, will there be pollution or will there not be pollution? Pollution will increase or decrease? Increase, obviously. So this whole pollution of air, water, which we call legacy pollution issues. Legacy means these are being discussed for 100 years. But the new pollution, which is apparently invisible, is the climate crisis. This is also a pollution of a global scale, and this is what we call privatization of profit, because all these enterprises are creating private profits and socialization of the cost. Who suffers from climate crisis? People who cannot work, who have to work physically in the hot days. Coastal fish workers, they are going out, and Arabian Sea now has far more cyclones. And coastal fish workers that I work with, the unions, the National Fish Workers Forum and National Forum for Small Scale Fish Workers, there are 2 national unions for small scale fish workers. That is artisanal fish workers, which is sometimes called traditional fish workers, not the big shipping vessels and trawlers. They are saying we had 185 to 90 days in a year working day. Now, in a year, 4 to 5 cyclone warnings are coming. Every cyclone warning means don't go to the sea for 4 days or 5 days. So 20 days, 25 days work lost. Who pays for that? It's not they which created this climate crisis. Their contribution is nil. But the price that is being paid is by them. In India, there are roughly around, I'm just ending up, but getting ready for tomorrow's sessions. In India, roughly 45 to 50 crore informal sectors workers are there. All of you understand informal sector workers? Those who are not working under a salaried contract. Like there is a huge increase in the gig workers. There are 3 crores plus street vendors in India. There are 7 crore plus construction workers in India. Plus this 14 crore, 14.5 crore small and marginal farmers. If you consider even 1 for 2 persons. So roughly 45 to 50 crore informal sectors workers in India, rickshaw pullers, porters. In Ahmedabad last time I was conducting a training, they said Hamal workers. Hamal. Like how many headloads they load, they are paid based on that. Even if it is a hot and humid day, even if there is a chance of collapsing and dying, they carry the load first because they want to do more loading, more unloading. So who is actually responsible for this condition? That in India, we will soon be having 30 to 35 days in a year, and that is again the Government of India, Ministry of Arts Science report, which says within the next 2.5 decades, 30 to 35 days will be there in the summer, when it will be impossible to do physical work without cooling. You might die. But these workers, what they will do? Silent. The government report is silent. It is not their creation. It is the creation of high consumers. Can Hamal workers or street vendors buy SUV? No. Can they take flights? No. So, but they are subjected to the biggest prices, the biggest payments. So, same with fish workers, same with street vendors, construction workers, rickshaw pullers. And I have seen, I'm working with a lot of these unions. I have seen people die. Construction workers I did a training, and these groups who took the training, they named this. I've written about this. A mason came back early, said I was not feeling well, asked his wife to give food, said I was not feeling well, came back by around 12:30. I was not feeling well, so I came back. So wife gave the food, he washed his hand, sat down, fell down, never got up. Same thing happened with informal waste workers. Kuda kachra binne wala. Because on the hip, the big dump of waste, there is an extra temperature on top of the climate change caused temperature. So who is going to think about this? Government plans are largely silent about them. Government plans about climate change, India has climate change plans, talk about many other things. But sector by sector, this huge number of workers, plus the farmers. Let me reached last 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes. 4 minutes. In 2022, not too many years ago, this is 2022, in February, the wheat harvest was projected to be bumper wheat harvest. If you recall, if you can go back and check internet, in February, the Ministry of Agriculture Secretary also announced this year there will be a bumper wheat harvest. In March and April, there were 3 heat waves, which was not expected, and IMD didn't give any warning. And even if they had given warning, farmers had nothing to do. What can they do? Unless they understand the issue and they devise the strategy, which can be done. But the government didn't do anything. And crores of farmers lost a big amount of crop. Wheat yield went down. Government of India banned wheat export. So that also, because wheat export, 18 countries get wheat from India, including big countries like Bangladesh, Egypt. They get their wheat, a large part from India. So the bread and roti prices in Egypt also skyrocketed. In Bangladesh, it went down. And many crores of marginal and small farmers in India could not pay back the loan, because most of them take a loan to cultivate. That we know, all of you know. And they could not pay back the loan because the yield crashed. If the temperature rises, particularly nighttime temperature, the grain of wheat, particularly when the wheat is forming, the grain is forming, the grain do not get enough material. So grain becomes very small, it is useless, you cannot sell it. It will not give you much nutrition. And the total weight also crashes. That's exactly what happened. And crores of farmers who don't know how they repaid, what happened after that. So all of these, the actual impacts and what we can do, because many of these are unraveling, actually unfolding, happening right now in front of us. We don't have to wait that something will happen. Last several years, in fact, last 1.5 decades, many of them are actually increasing. That I'll talk to about tomorrow. But tomorrow we'll be focusing on what are happening segment by segment, which are the people and what we can do with them. Thank you.
So thank you, Samya. You can feel the depth of the knowledge. Is like a walking encyclopedia in terms of ecology. So I'm sure that his expertise will benefit us in the coming 2 days. So this is only an appetizer. What is going to come is tomorrow and the following day, when we will make certain decisions as the Green Initiative members, what we can do about it. That is on Sunday for the discussion. Okay, so tomorrow onwards, we'll come back here again at 9:30 in the morning. We'll begin the session at 9:30. We will have the sessions here. For those of you who want to use the restroom, for the ladies, it is in the corner here, down. And for men, it is on the top, just in the corner. From tomorrow onwards, you can utilize that. Okay, so we will have a dinner at 7:30. Try to come in time so that the workers have to finish and get settled and come back in the morning. Okay, so after dinner, if you want to walk, please walk where there is a light. Don't go into the darkness. And the gate will be closed by 8:45 or 9 o'clock. So if you're going out, please come inside. I would advise that don't go out, be inside and feel at home. Tomorrow, for those of us can attend the mass, it is at 7 o'clock. Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
And what time is breakfast time? Breakfast
7:30.
begins at 7:30.
Begins at 7:30, but you can keep coming, no problem, till 8 o'clock.